West Red Lake Gold just put out a mine site update discussing what we've achieved in the last 3 months at the Madsen mine. And the bottom line is ramp up at the Madsen mine is going well. We're being methodical in our approach, working to increase daily tons mined and moved while also completing the last few projects needed for the site to operate consistently as planned. Okay, let's talk about the numbers. In the third quarter, the Madsen mine produced 35,700 tons of ore, and those ore tons carried an average grade of 5.4 grams per ton gold. The mill poured 7,055 ounces in the third quarter, and those ounces generated gross proceeds of $33 million Canadian. For context, that production is 34% more in the third quarter than what we produced in the second quarter, which was when we did our bulk sample and had our first sort of 5 weeks of ramp up. Now we expect to maintain this pace of increase, 35, 40, 30%, somewhere in that range, into the fourth quarter. And doing that would get us to our targeted output levels in time for our goal of declaring commercial production early in 2026. And we're especially confident that we're going to be able to do this because we have one material movement project now just recently giving us a big leg up, and another one expected to do so soon in November. Okay, so let's talk about material movement. The primary ramp-up factor at Madsen, the critical path item, is increasing daily mined ore tons. How many tons you pull out the portal. It's important to understand that for every ton of ore that's hauled out of the mine, 1 to 2.5 tons of waste rock is also mined and has to be managed. Now, until a few weeks ago, all of this waste rock, and what I mean by waste rock is the unmineralized rock that's blasted and loaded as we make tunnels to mining areas. Until recently, all of that waste rock was trucked up to surface. So each day there was somewhere between 500 and 1,200 tons of waste rock trucked out of the mine. That took up a lot of trucking capacity. So it was a very significant development a few weeks ago when we started storing all of our waste rock underground. Now, our plan was always to store about half of our waste rock underground once we'd mined enough to create the empty spaces to put that rock. But we've been able to pull this advantage forward significantly because we found, assessed, and started using some large empty historic voids. Now, most of the historically mined areas at Madsen are not empty. The old timers wanted to store their waste rock underground just like we want to. But there are a few old stopes that are empty. And it turns out that one that's quite close to one of our large mining areas in the second half of 2025 is much larger than we expected. And it's very competent. In fact, it's large and competent enough to take direct dumped waste, just trucks dumping waste, as well as cemented rock fill. And that combination has multiplied the volume of waste rock we expected to be able to put in there. So multiplied what we can do with underground storage of waste rock each day. As a result, as of the middle of September, we quite abruptly started storing all of our waste rock underground. And we saw the benefit of not hauling this waste rock immediately. In the second half of September, the mine moved over 1,000 tons of ore a day on several occasions, including a record day moving 1,400 tons of ore. This shift bodes well for production ramp up in the fourth quarter. So there's another infrastructure project that will add similar benefit to that underground waste storage project, and that's the shaft. There's a historic shaft at Madsen. It goes all the way down to 1,300 meters. At the end of last year, we rehabilitated that shaft down to about 600 meters, the 12 level. And in the middle of the year, we determined that we could use it for skipping material. So we ordered the hoist components needed to get that underway. We expect those to show up and be installed by November, when we should be able to start moving 350 tons of ore up the shaft each day. Now, let me just paint a picture for you. When we're mining on average at about 500 meters depth, to get from there out, to truck from there out the portal, takes about an hour for each truckload. With that in mind, you can see why we're keen to get the shaft operating and be able to start moving ore tons at notably, at much better efficiency and lower cost. Okay, when we come to Madsen, we remain really comfortable with the technical side of mining, how we're accessing this deposit. And that shows because And that shows in how reconciliation between expected and actual grades remains really strong. And it's absolutely worth underlining that the team at site is executing according to plan. They deserve huge kudos on that front. And sills, which are the edges of each targeted stope area, and those sills are mined in preparation to mine the stope, they keep surprising us to the upside on grade. In September, sill tons averaged 8.8 grams per ton gold. So with one key enhancement to how material is moved at Madsen in place and another one pending, with gold grades reconciling well, with staffing working well, and with the final pieces of equipment expected to arrive in the next 2 months, we need one more haul truck and a few more scoops, we are confident that our methodical approach to advancing this mine, that our methodical approach is advancing this mine on schedule towards commercial production. Okay, I also want to explain our rationale for our recent financing. Now, we've said since starting up the mine that we believe we have the capital and cash flow to complete the ramp up of Madsen as planned. And that remained true even as we announced the financing. So why did we do it? Well, there was a few very particular reasons. Accessing additional capital now gave us the ability to pull a few projects, a ventilation project and a power project, forward. Starting these projects imminently, instead of not starting them until mid-2026, creates the potential for us to produce more at Madsen sooner. Given that West Red Lake Gold was founded and is still very much driven by the investment thesis that the best way to get leverage to a gold bull market is with rising gold production in a junior company. Given that that's our premise, we decided that it was best for our investors to prioritize this forward-looking work, to bring in additional capital now, to do more sooner. Okay, the next reason, additional capital will help us get deeper sooner, which will enable us in time, in not too long, to start drilling Madsen deeps. Comparable Red Lake mines down the road go more than twice as deep as the current Madsen deposit. If we want to unlock Madsen deeps in this gold bull market, we need to start drilling it so we can start planning how we might mine it. Another reason, if ramp up remains smooth and or the gold price remains at these phenomenal levels, it touched $4,000 an ounce this morning, unbelievable. And if that happens and we end up with additional capital, we will use that to pay down our debt sooner so that we can increase our free cash flow. Free cash flow is the reason to want rising gold production. So we think that that's a valuable goal to chase for our investors. And then lastly, the flow-through capital that we raised will advance Rowan to pre-feasibility level by mid-2026. And that's really important because that keeps Rowan on track to be in construction in 2027 or 2028, depending on how permitting goes. So that ended up being a long video. Thanks for watching all the way through. I'll just wrap up by saying being halfway through ramp up at Madsen is really exciting. I'm so glad to be part of this team that's turning a mismanaged mine into the foundation of a new gold mining company. That's what we're doing, and we're really getting there. I'm also really keen in the coming months to start talking more about Rowan, which is a really great project that we're pushing ahead as quickly as we can, because adding 35,000 ounces a year to our production profile in just a few years, we think that is a significant thing to do. Thanks, everyone.